So this session is again for the immune system. We were working on the immune system the last session, and this one's taking it a little bit further. So slight warning, it is kind of vigorous. There are some very strong poses, but it really does work where we need it to work. So if you can do the poses, but adjust them slightly, that would be really good for you. So let's start with lying down as usual. So comfortably lying flat on our mat, making yourself as comfortable as possible. If you have a little cushion or something for underneath your head, that's always good. And first of all, should we just check in with where we are, how we feel in this moment? So you can do Shavasana, separating the feet about 2 to 3 feet apart. If you want to jump this section of the class, go in about 10-15 minutes and go straight to the poses. So you don't have to do the check-in, you can do a very quick, how am I feeling in this moment? Mentally, emotionally, physically, what is my breath doing? How am I on this mat at this time? Centering, mindfully aware, and then move into the practice. But we like to take it slow. So this is the slow intro in Shavasana with the palms facing upwards. And as best we can, we're letting go of any of the strains and stresses of the day or any of the tensions of the night if you're doing it in the morning. And imagining those just sinking into the ground and fading, going away, letting go. And the weight of the arms become heavier. Chin towards the chest slightly, shoulders away from the head. And let's imagine that we've got nothing to do at all for, oh, it's as though several hours we were going to lie here. That's how much we can let go. And let's see how we're doing mentally. What's rushing around in there? What sort of thoughts? And again, very gentle awareness of the thoughts. As much as possible, we try to be uncritical, unjudgmental. One of my favorite phrases is it's hard to be human, because it is. And we need certainly more care, more kindness, more gentleness and tenderness towards ourselves. So now let's check in emotionally. What's going on emotionally in this moment for us? And if you notice that you felt busy or harried or too much to do, let's imagine that we're almost as though we're slipping into a nice, freshly washed sheets bed, nothing to do, relaxing, letting go of all the busyness and doing. Some pamper time. And no matter what's happening emotionally, let's see if we can approach our emotions with the same care and tenderness and kindness and sympathy if needed, as we would to our mind and all its thinking. And let's turn the awareness now to the body. How is this body of ours? And maybe you'd like to check in first with the areas that have been troublesome or playing up. How are they doing in this moment? And remembering to protect those areas when we do our practice. Don't over-push the body. It's most certainly not about no pain, no gain. Yoga is about listening, being kind to the body, adapting where we need to for ourselves to be the most yogic in our approach. Really doesn't matter what anybody else is doing. Let's do the yoga that we need to do for ourselves. And scanning the body, seeing any other area of the body needs some attention. Maybe there's some area of the body you haven't been giving awareness to, and it's clamoring to be noticed. See if you can hear it. Okay, and then let's turn the awareness to the breath. And this body being breathed by the breath. Now for some people, turning to the breath makes them anxious, so maybe try turning to awareness of sound as we do this part of the practice. So either sound or breath awareness. Choose what works for you. Okay, so now let's recap the breath, the body, the emotions, the mind. This is who we are in this moment. Can we greet ourselves with warmth, appreciation, understanding, and kindness? Greeting ourselves tenderly. And being aware of how we are, where we are in this room, on this mat. And then moving that very present moment awareness into our yoga asana practice. And later on into our breathing practice and our relaxation practice. So let's wriggle the fingers and the toes a little, bringing the legs to parallel to each other and breathing in, taking the arms behind the head, back to the hands on the floor, bringing the toes towards the body and elongating, really stretching the fingers further and further away. And then if you wish, pointing the toes away from you. If the feet cramp at all, release that stretch. Remember being kind. And then I'd like you to breathe in, lift the hands up to the ceiling and try to reach the ceiling with the palms facing each other. Relax the feet. Bring the soles of the feet to the ground by bending the knees. Relax the hands downwards as you roll over onto one side and come up. So the work that we're going to do this evening, remember, if you have blocks or you have a belt, or let's get them all near, so we've got them if we need them, blocks, belts. Okay, put one there. Now they're ready, and the belt. And this work might be, well, a little challenging. So we're going to start by standing up straight away. And just let's warm up a little, so rotate the pelvis. Lovely. And rotate the pelvis the other way. Okay. Lovely. And then just swing pelvis from side to side. Just see how comfortable that is as the femur comes into that socket joint. Okay. Lovely. And then bringing the feet just underneath the hip joint, where the femur comes in here to the hip joint, and just stepping, if you can, leaving the arms to hang quite heavy. Okay, and then once you've stepped a few times, do the opposite elbow to the opposite knee. So step, step. Okay, so a bit of massage on the tummy area as you lift that thigh up. Don't worry if you can't touch the elbow. Go as far as you can, comfortably. Good, and then widen out the legs and put the feet pointing at, this is 12 o'clock at the front. On this side, it would be, on your right side, it would be 2 o'clock. And on your left side, it would be your feet pointing to about 10 o'clock. And then you just move the knees over the feet so we don't compromise that knee joint at all. I'm hoping for, there's a class I'm creating, which will probably be the next class, which is about strengthening everything around the knee joint. I'm really looking forward to teaching that one. Hopefully that's the next one. Okay, so swinging from side to side. And then straightening up, little wiggle jiggle, backwards, forwards. Okay, see how it feels. And then we do just a lift. It's like the Ministry of Funny Walks. If you want to, you can put your arms out, helps balance. Okay, and then if you thought that was fun, Ministry of Even Sillier Walks to the side. And that'll get muscles in here, which we very rarely use, you know, in daily life. Okay, good. Shake out a bit. Standing in Tadasana, the mountain pose. So let's check. Just sideways up, just to be sure. My husband was saying that he found it really helpful when he imagines the string at the crown of the head just pulling upwards. Because as people get older, you know, they're slouching over their computer screens, they're watching television, they're talking to people, and their spine starts to get bent over and the muscles around it shorten, and then they're stuck. So really thinking about a nice upright spine crown of the head lifting, chin slightly down, so the neck vertebrae are nice and stacked evenly and not compressed. And the hands hanging down by the sides. And this lovely, lovely pose of stability, deeply rooted, equilibrium, steady, immovable. So this is a pose not only just for helping your posture, but also for bringing great stability and equilibrium into the emotional level. And I think all of us get very wobbly, little wobbly, a tad wobbly, now and again. So breathing into it, you can close the eyes if you wish. Being lifted from the crown of the head, nice and long. Check the feet that the ankles aren't collapsing inwards or outwards. Even weight distribution through all of the sole of the foot, front, back, and both sides. See if you can relax the jaw if you tend to hold it tense. And let the tongue go to the base of the mouth. Lovely. And then from there, I'd like you to breathe in. We're going up into a long extended pose, extended mountain. So my hands have gone up in such a way, let me show you, that my index fingers are pointing upwards. My thumbs are actually crossed, you can see, and the other fingers are clasped. So this particular mudra, and up we go. And then just when you're thinking, oh, that's easy, we go on to our tiptoes. So if you're going to find that hard, if you're like me and you've got a wall nearby or a sofa or something in your room to lean against, you can just lean against it. And then you can tiptoe a little forward or lean back. So we're up as much on our tiptoes as though we were wearing very, very high heel shoes, which I don't tend to recommend, not good for your feet. But let's pretend for once that we are. And at the same time, try that extra stretch upwards, as though you were touching something just a few inches away upwards. Lovely. Okay, and then breathing out, coming down and bringing the heels down and going back. This is now to a very vigorous mountain. Can you see my arms? They're out slightly. And try doing this movement as though you're pushing something away from you, past your hips. Okay, good. And then I'd like you to do the pose where we lift one foot, the other hand comes down onto the waist, and we extend that leg. So ideally, the lifted leg and the base leg are straight. But in practice, that's kind of difficult to do. And again, if you find it hard, you can always lean back against a wall and do it leaning against the wall. Okay, so then it doesn't really work 100% on improving your balance, but it's better than feeling that you're going to topple all the time. Okay. If you feel you really will topple, try putting this hand out, gives you more. That's it, that's lovely. Nice poses. Drop the shoulders, looking straight ahead, breathing into it. You can try having the knee bent a bit and then straightening a bit, bending it a bit, straightening a bit, and then releasing and coming down. And just move the hip joint, move the hip joint. Okay. Move the hip joint. And obviously we're going to do it on the opposite side. So take the other foot, grab hold of the toe if you want to, put a hand on a wall, on a chair, on a sofa, if you're worried about your balance, straightening out. Okay, and again, technically both legs are sort of straight, but practically it actually happening. It tends to be a little bit straight or a little bit wonky, a little bit bent. Doing the best we can. Remember, if you're feeling really unsteady, the arm can go out or it can hold on to something. Okay, and then releasing down. Oof, a little bit again of opposite circle, hip circles, opposite way. I'm doing anti-clockwise this time. Okay, so if you thought that was hard, it's getting worse. I'm afraid it is getting worse. Let me just move my cushion out the way. And I was giving a go with this with my student Angela last week, and we did find it tough, it has to be said. So if you watch me, we're going from straight. You might need a wall nearby just because you might be uncertain how much you can handle of this, but it's going to be opposite hand to opposite leg. And then you look the other way, so it's probably best to show it this way. Opposite hand to opposite leg, coming up, and look that way. So that's my right leg going up, right leg going up. Right hand going behind me, look behind me. Okay, so this might not be my most beautiful, balanced yoga pose, but it's a really good revolved leg lift. Okay, and I don't know whether you'll notice, but I'm actually slightly leaning on the wall behind me because it's tricky. Okay, you could try doing it. If that feels too difficult, you could try hand to knee, which makes it so much easier. And then maybe gradually opening out that leg, but maybe not aiming for grabbing the foot. Personally, I like it like so much easier. Okay, and then breathing out, coming down. Pause, backwards and forwards on the hip joint, femur to that socket. And guess what, we're doing the other way. So I'm lifting my left leg up, or left knee up, right hand to left knee, hand behind, or if you can, straightening out and looking behind you. So not particularly easy. To get the effect around the abdominal area, holding onto the knee is quite sufficient, and it's easier to balance. So let me see, yes, you seem to be doing that quite well. The hand behind you, which is your left hand, is going out parallel to the floor. And like me, you can bring the foot down and go up again, doing what you can, looking behind you if you can, and having immense humour when you wobble. Because wobbling means that we really are trying something that's quite difficult for us. Coming back down, go back to swinging from side to side. Okay, and good. Well done for trying that. Not an easy pose. Really good for, remember we're working on the lymphatic system, the drainage, the way that the lymph system really needs encouraging and upping to improve our immune system and make us feel that we can really battle things that come our way. Viruses, bugs, pollutants, etc. So from there, I want to do a Padottanasana, forward bend, but I want to do it slightly differently between what we normally do. So what I recommend is to take the legs quite wide, and when they're quite wide, go a bit wider if you can. Obviously, don't hurt the inner thigh muscles in here and tendons in here. So you're going comfortably wide, but I've learnt over the decades that the wider I go in this comfortably, the easier the pose is. Okay, so normally we'll lengthen up here, because if we go over without lengthening, you're simply going to crush up those internal abdominal organs. So think about lengthening those by lifting the rib cage up, not just putting the shoulders up. But what we're going to do today is we're going to clasp the hands behind us and go forward and lift the arms up. Now, a little trick before we start: when you clasp, you might find you can't keep that clasped. You might just be able to touch fingers at the back when you go over. So whatever works, let's go for it. So think of the crown lifting upwards, touch the hands at the back, lift the rib cage away from the pelvis, long up and over, going down, okay? And if you can, you've got the hands going up. Breathing into that. If you find that too hard, put the hands down on the floor, okay? You might think, no, this yoga pose is not for me. And that would be what a sensible, true yogi would do. They'd go, no, not for me. Not sure I like that. Or I might do it for a little, see how I feel, then bring the hands down, pause and rest in a funny sort of table, and then try it again, okay? And then I recommend bringing the hands down anyway, and just lowering down as much as possible towards the floor. Breathing, 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 breathing. If you've got a block, you might want to put a block on the floor so that you can rest your head on it, okay? You might want to actually not go down so far. Sorry, I was just moving because I'm getting rained on. It's coming through my top window. So you can always put blocks there and then bring the head down onto the block. But obviously, the wider the feet are apart, the less you have to bend forward and go down. So if you know you can't have very wide legs, I would go for blocks, put a couple of blocks so that you're high up, your head can reach something to support it. And then just slightly walk the feet a little towards each other and go down, holding onto your ankles at the outside. And imagine that we're sticking the sitting bones and the tailbone up to the heavens. Okay. Lovely. Then bring the hands forward and go into a kind of long table where your wrist joints are coming down right underneath your shoulder joint, and just tuck the chin in for a moment and pause and breathe. And just enjoy the moment. Nice, deep, slow breaths. And then when you've done that to the point where you feel a little bit rested, take the hands through, back of the hands, right through the legs. So side on, this would be like so, hands right through as much as possible. Arms upwards. And then push back again into nice steady table. Okay. Resting into that. And then back, hands to ankles. And if you need to, if it's tight on the inner adductors here, you can bend the knee slightly, as long as it's going in line with your foot, going at 10 to 2. 12 o'clock is always straight ahead, okay?
And that will take some of the pressure off those very tight groin tendons. Okay, that's probably well enough, but just coming up. If you're finding this all too much, you can step heel toe a little bit more, but we're just going to do revolved work from here. So with one hand directly in front of the face on the floor, in the middle, let's go up into a revolved forward bend. Okay, looking upwards. So both arms are perpendicular, coming up off the floor like a telegraph pole. Okay, and then other hand comes down, breathe in, go up. Looking up the opposite way. Breathing into that. So lovely, breathe, breathe, breathe. And then breathing out, coming back down to that extended table. And I'd like you to move your pelvis forward and back. Okay, so if you can see me, I'm just moving my pelvis from way back to way forward. Careful of your wrists. Way back to forward. The lymphatic system in the armpit area and around the throat area and the groin area, we're really trying to get it to go into maximum regulation, really. So it'll really boost our immune system. And then walk the feet heel toe, heel toe, heel toe, heel toe, until you are in a forward bend. Okay. And if you want, because some people I know find the forward bend incredibly difficult, you can widen the feet out a little so that you feel you're a little bit closer to the floor. Or again, you can put your hands on a block. So let's just rest in that. It's a lovely soothing pose. It's a forward bend. They're all very emotionally soothing and calming. Don't worry about having locked knees. I really recommend not having locked knees for this. You can soften the knees out. Tailbone up to the heavens. And just feeling that stretch that works for you along the backs of the legs. And remember, if you continue not doing this pose, the backs of the legs, the hamstrings will tighten and tighten and tighten. So just try it a little each day if you can. And enjoy that feeling of safety and security that any kind of forward bend gives to the emotional level. Nice and soothing. Nothing to do. Just check that you're not leaning back on your heels too much. Even weight, ball of foot and heel of foot, and outside and inside of the feet. We're not really aiming for the perfect pose. We're aiming for the perfect pose for us, which can be completely different to what the person on the next mat is doing. Okay, so bend the knees as though you're sitting on an imaginary stool behind us. Okay, and that little seat or chair, we're just sitting back. Okay. And then come up and do what I call the fierce pose. So technically, ankle to knee and shoulder to fingertips are in the same alignment. They're one similar line. And it's quite hard work. It builds up heat. And then when you've had enough of that, which will be about 15 seconds, straighten up. Okay, so maximum straightening up and lengthen the arms up to the heavens. I'm just going to move my hair out the way. So lengthening up. And again, having the feet comfortably underneath the hip joint. Not here, but here, straight underneath. And
I'd like you to stretch out the armpit area again by that nice long stretch. You have the palms of the hands facing forward and really lift. And imagine this area here in the armpit really open, okay? The lymphatic system is draining from here, from the chest through, and we want it to drain downwards. We're stimulating it to drain downwards. Lovely. Okay, and breathe out and down. You can shake out a bit. Just thinking in that work we were doing there, do remember though, at any stage, you know, this is why we have blocks that you can, when we were doing the wide angled twists, you can use blocks as high as you like to make it work for you, okay? That's what they're there for, and do use them. Because it will make the positive impact of the pose work better for you. You know, it took me a while back in the 80s when, well, I started learning yoga when I was 9, so that's in the 60s, I'm afraid. And I didn't really understand back then that surely the most important thing was to have the perfect pose. And the teacher was gently explaining to me, as all my teachers have done, that actually the perfect pose is the one that works for you. So if you've got a sore shoulder, you don't have to get that completely straight. You have to get it comfortable for you so that everything else is working right. But what we're going to do next is one of my fun poses that I really like. And it's a bit tricky. Normally we do this one, don't we? Remember the T pose, where we're balancing and we're trying to go into the T shape with the hands and the arms past the ears. Okay. And you can actually hold on to something. So if you had a door handle to hold on to, that would be fine. That makes it easy. If the balance is tricky. But I've always found this one to approach it with a certain sense of being a young child, just playing and going, oh, yes. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. And your ankle, your base ankle, will be working very hard to keep you in to keep you in balance. Beautiful summer rainstorm. As long as I don't slip on that wet patch. Okay, so from there, that was fairly easy, stepping back. Okay, and this is where it gets tricky. I want you to clasp the hands at the back, step forward again. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. But if you fancy having a go, go for it. But make sure you've got something that when you want to, you can let go and hang on to it in case you topple. Okay, so we're going back into this one luggage pose. And we're trying to bring the arms up. Chest being parallel to the floor, back leg lifting up. Not easy, but kind of fun. Okay, and it also helps when you're in the pose, abdominal core and Mula Bandha, that base lock that you pull up, and the abdominal core and kind of letting the whole belly area relax. Actually, you know, just a little bit of a pull in, just low in the belly, really helps. And we can do them on the other side. So first of all, going into the usual T pose, the 1 foot balance, Padasana. Okay. And again, you don't have to have that base leg absolutely locked straight. Might not work for you if it was straight. Little bend gives you a little bit more maneuverability to balance. And when you've had enough, coming out of it, pausing, shake the legs before we do it with the different arm lift. I did say it was slightly strenuous, this session. So again, but this time, clasp the hands, maybe unfamiliar clasp this time. So if you went in normal clasp, just notch the fingers down until it feels like a weird clasp, and going up the same leg side. Okay. And again, if you feel nervous of it, you're not sure, use the support of a sofa, chair, or wall to go up into the pose. So breathing into it, okay? Trying to
gently find your point of balance, elongating that leg out behind you, lifting the arms up, breathing. Mula bandha if you can do it, it's tricky. Abdominal lock if you can do it. Looking straight at the floor. And then another way to come out of it is just drop the hands to the floor and come down and think to yourself, thank goodness for that, it's done. Thank goodness for that, okay? So breathing into that. And if it's hot, it's very hot out here with that summer storm going through. If you've got a piece of paper or something, give yourself a fan of it. Whew. Okay. Pausing and breathing, shoulders back. Let's rotate them round. Been doing lots of arm work. Take them out and rotate them. So I'm in kneeling, but you don't have to be in kneeling. You could be sitting on a small stool. You could be sitting cross-legged. You could be sitting comfortably, however you like, with your legs straight, sitting on a sofa even, as long as you've got the room to stretch the arms out and rotate into those shoulders. Okay, and then do opposite rotations like so, which is kind of fun. I really like the way it works into the shoulder joint. Okay, and then just relax and clasp, right hand, no, sorry, for you, if you're a woman, right hand's on top first, clasp the other shoulder, the other one comes underneath. If you're a man, it's the opposite way first. But again, I wouldn't worry too much about that. There are things to worry about and there are things not to worry about. And actually, I would just clasp around, so giving yourself a hug and then just shake from side to side. For women, you might have to go higher than the front chest. Okay, otherwise it gets a bit squashy. And then release out, rotate again. Okay, then bring the arms to halfway, like we were doing, as if we were doing goddess pose. Okay, hold. And then see if you can rotate downwards and hold. Okay, and I don't know whether you've noticed, but my shoulders are creeping up. So take the shoulders down, hold. Lovely. And then just let them swing from the elbow. Good. And then we're going to do it the opposite way. So for men, you want the right hand on top this time. For women, it's the left. And round we go. And I'm trying to even go round the shoulder blade as if I could hold on to it. Okay. And then really big tight hug. And then release. And then just shake the arms out a bit. And we're having a kind of rest here. So interim pose. If you're kneeling, hands on the thighs. If you're sitting, one hand on top of the other. Close the eyes for a moment. Check in. How are we doing? How's it going? Because the next one's a little bit hard work. It's foot forward, downward facing plank. Okay, so I'll show it side on because that makes it a little bit more obvious to you. It is hard work. So remember, if you have wrist problems, I would seriously advise rolling up a part of your mat. Okay, and putting the wrists on the squidgy bit and the fingers on the floor, because that'll protect the wrists. And actually, why don't we all do that? Don't just think, oh, well, my wrists are fine. Actually, wrists are tricky, and they're a very tricky joint if they start hurting. So once you've done that, going back until you feel you have the wrists underneath your shoulder joint. Okay, more or less. And then walk one foot back and put the toes on the floor. You can see where we're going. We're going into the plank. And the tricky thing with the plank is tailbone tends to get too high, so we're about to go into downward facing dog. We're not, we're going face down, plank, hopefully straightish line from the crown of the head down to the soles of the feet. Breathing into that. And it's hard on the arms. So if it gets too hard work, put the knees down and pause, take the weight off the hands by bringing the head back towards the knees. And you can put the head on the floor. You can release the hands completely, wriggle the fingers. Okay. Got to protect those wrist joints. And then down again, we'll go up into it. If you want to stay longer in the rest pose, do. But up we go. So the hard bit is getting the nice straightness. Okay. Often people have tailbone too high, head up. I only got my head up because I'm looking at you and I'm looking at how students are doing. But trying to get that nice straight line. Pushing the heels backwards. Holding from the abdominal core, holding Mula Bandha if you know how to do it, breathing into the pose. Challenging, huh? This is a challenging one. And then knees to the floor, sit back, forehead to the floor, and rotate the wrists comfortably. Take the wrists back, so we're in Balasana, child pose, palms upwards, and let the arms rest. Nothing to do for a moment. If your belly feels squashed, you can move your knees wider apart. We don't want those internal organs getting horribly squished up. We want them to have a lot of nice, comfortable space. Big toes can be touching at the back. Big toes like to touch at the back in this pose. Okay, comfortably relaxing. See if you can get those shoulders closer to the floor as you rest in this pose. And then I don't really know whether I should tell you this, but the next pose is even more challenging. So this might be the stage where you want to just watch and sit it out, or don't do it for very long, okay? Or you might think, oh, actually, this is my best pose. This is the one I've been waiting for all my life. So coming up by putting the hands on either side of the head, push, come up, okay? And I'll show you it slowly. I probably won't stay in it very long. You want the hand down. Don't do it with me yet, just watch for a moment. You're going to go up into the sideways plank and then take the arm over. And again, if you're going to be nice and protect your wrist joints, roll your mat up a bit so that you can put the heel of the hand on the rolled up bit so that you have that nice cushioning. And then you put the top foot on front of the other foot and then over. So really stretching, opening out that top armpit. Not easy, truly not easy. Breathing into it. If you find that too hard actually and you're just sitting there thinking not a chance, how about doing it just from the elbow? So your forearm is on the ground. Try that. There's always a way to do it. Okay. And the interim pose is to come down and do the Ben of Cleopatra eating the grapes pose. Okay. Reclining, resting, nothing to do. And the good news is we did it one side. The bad news perhaps is we have to do it the other side. But not yet. This is probably a good point in the session to say, really congratulate yourself for being here, for doing the work, being on your mat, for looking after yourself, taking good care of yourself, having a yoga session.
Okay, so we do the other side. So switch over. Again, if you want to protect that wrist on the other side, roll up your mat a bit. Put the heel of the hand on the squished out bit. And going up into the pose. Ideally, you probably noticed this, the arms are perpendicular as you go straight up, and then the top arm goes over and opens up that armpit area. Okay. And you'll feel the arm that you've got all the weight going through trembling like crazy. I think in my last pose, I had my legs too far away, way down there, and my arm was stretching. It wasn't perpendicular. I did it on the other side, so my bad. But hey. Okay, lovely. And if you find that too hard, pausing, having a rest, and just doing it from forearm. And again, upper arm is perpendicular off the ground, other arm goes up, and then eventually over. Okay. And I think this is the most challenging pose of all of them that we've done this session. It gets better from here. Okay, release. Rest in Cleopatra pose. Looking kind of glamorous. Breathing, pausing. I don't know whether you can see, but I have a rain puddle on my yoga mat, which isn't something I can say very often. I'm just going to have to be careful not to slip on it. I'm just letting the body quieten down because that was pretty hard work. Pausing, breathing, but well done. And it does get better from here. Thank goodness. Okay, so use your top hand and arm to push and help you up. Great. And just go into the wide angle seated, but I do seriously recommend having possibly a block or a cushion underneath your sitting bones. Just that little bit of support. Okay, because if people don't do that, they tend to be all squished up. So you want to, let me show you from the side. If you didn't have it, you'd probably be like this a bit. Whereas if you tuck something just underneath the tailbone, it helps to straighten up the spine. Okay, so from there, we've got the legs out, again, as far as they'll go. Careful if you are hypermobile, because I don't want you overextending. If you have hypermobility, it's really easy to think, oh yeah, I can just put my head on the floor, do this, I can do that, I can stretch my legs out into almost like the splits, but actually it's really damaging for the joints, so please don't. So bring the toes towards us, shoulders back and down. Engage the abdominal core here. What does that mean? It just means pulling in slightly, but not too much. You're not constricting the internal organs in there. But at the same time, you're not letting the whole belly just flop forward, just comfortably supporting from the front. Okay. Pausing first of all, crown of the head lifting upwards. So we're going to go into Pavritti Jane Sirsana, the forward head to knee pose. And if you can bring your right foot in to your groin, heel to groin, right foot to left thigh, inner thigh, and then turn your left palm upwards. That left palm is going to go towards the left toe. If you can, palm upward, catch the left toe, that's where we're heading. But what we mustn't do is collapse here. So if we just went into it, there'd be tremendous compression in here, and your small intestine, colon, stomach, various organs could really complain, could even get one of those awful spasms that are very, very painful muscle lock in there to stop you doing it. So we need to go up first to lengthen the rib cage away from the pelvis.
take the left hand down towards the big toe, and then take the right hand over. We're going over sideways. So left shoulder, right shoulder is on top of it. Okay, and we're looking slightly up through the right upper arm, breathing into that. And you might find this right knee wants to come up and the right hip, right sitting bone wants to come up. You know, don't be too hard on yourself. If it feels painful, keeping it down, let it lift a little bit, okay? Again, strong pose, but not, I don't think quite as challenging as that last one we've just done, that sideways plank. But it does stretch out in here. If you have sacroiliac problems, they're loose and they open too much, not a good pose, this one. You know, don't go down, just go to here if you're worried about your sacroiliac joints, back of your pelvis. Okay, hopefully nice and wide in this armpit, upper armpit, the right armpit. And then breathing in, coming up, lengthen up, lengthen, 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 breathe out and down. Lower, take that right foot out, okay, and rest your hands on your knees. So I'm trying to think, what problems could you be having with this? You could always put the feet closer together. You could always sit higher on cushions. You could always do it, if you were sitting on a chair, you could do it just so that if you're going over your leg on the chair, you're still doing sideways stretches from the chair. So those are adaptations. But now let's do it the other side. So let's bring the left foot in. So left heel into groin, left foot into the inner side of the right thigh. And in doing that, I've kind of squished my pelvis, it's leaning back. So you might need to lean back and pull your sitting bones, sitting muscles backwards behind you. That's better. So I'm more upright again. And then with that leg out comfortably, as far as it will go, breathe in, take the arms up, and let's get that space in our abdominal area, lifting up the rib cage, and drop that right hand palm upward towards the right big toe. Hold on, okay, and breathing out sideways, so the left shoulder is above the right shoulder, and over we go, looking up through that left upper arm, and trying to keep the left hip, pelvis, sitting bone, and knee on the floor, unless it's feeling really uncomfortable, okay? Some people can go all the way down and actually touch the foot, but I don't want you to do that, to touch the foot. Take the hand and arm in front. I want you to keep it upright, okay? Up above that right shoulder, breathing into it. And there should be a lovely stretch along this left side of the body. So here there'll be the spleen, the descending colon, you know, really stretch the kidney here, getting a nice opening on that side. Excellent. And then the lymphatic system in this left armpit. And at the same time, groin lymphatic system opening, stretching, massaged, invigorated. And then to come out, breathing in, left hand up to the ceiling, you can look up, and then slowly, slowly, right hand slides up the right leg. Okay, release, and just do a little bit of work along the arm. Okay, and then, rotate back a little. Those shoulder joints, we're working hard in there. And release that left foot, and then we're not actually hugging, we're just as though we were creating a cloak, whooshing a cloak around us. Okay, up, right on top, left on top, right on top, left on top, keeping the abdominal area nice and long and big. Okay, pause, rest comfortably for a moment in any way that your legs can cope with. Close the eyes for a moment, breathing, breathing, breathing. And I want to do one of the Marijasana twists. And it's one of my favorite twists. Probably easiest to show you it straight on. Just avoid that puddle. So straight on. And what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to bring your right knee and right foot up and over to the outside of the left knee, okay? And then when you've done that, I'd like you to look at that right knee and be aware of your belly. So right knee's there, it's going, hopefully going sort of straight up. Belly is probably squashed up to the thigh a bit, so lean back, allow the belly more room and then come forward. Do you see that little wiggle technique? I leant back, opened my belly out and came forward, okay? Then think of this right hand. You might think you know what we're about to do. We're about to do something we don't normally do. So this right hand, I want it to come forward to touch that left foot, okay? Because what we're going to do is we're going to go palm downwards and then palms over to the right, pointing to the right, and swing back, and then try and catch that hand with your left hand so that you're looking over your left shoulder. And you might be going, what was that? Let's see if I can do it this way on, and we'll see it better. So the right hand went down towards the left foot, palm upwards, palm downwards, and then palm facing to the right. Okay, then it swung back. And the trick, there's always a trick. The trick is to get this armpit well past that knee so you can swing the arm back and catch it. Okay, and then the next trick is to straighten up. Oh, and look behind you. Okay, not easy. If you find it's too difficult, just hold on with your right arm onto your right knee and bring your left hand round the back, palm facing outwards, and look behind you over the left shoulder. Near enough, okay? And hopefully crown of the head lifting upwards, left shoulder going back behind you. I want you to really feel in the torso that lovely, lovely wringing out. We're squeezing out into the internal organs, kidneys, spleen, liver, stomach. Getting a lovely squeeze. It's what the twists are so good for, as well as being excellent for the spine and the discs in the spine. Okay, and then breathing out, pausing. Bring the hands round to the front, feet together. And the good news or the bad news, I don't know, is you're now going to do it on the other side. You don't have to turn around, you can just do it from where you are. So this time it's going to be the left knee bends, and then the left foot comes up to the outside of the right knee, okay? Now it's really easy to be scrunched up. So just lean back, move the belly, so you put it round to the front and then bring it forward. So the space is here for the belly, so it's not too constricted. And then left hand, if we're doing it the full version, just the lols really, you take the left hand towards the right foot as though you're going to grab onto that right toe, okay? Then turn the palm over and then turn the palm so it's facing your left, okay? Turn it round the back. So again, lean, 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 armpit past knee, lean, and see if you can catch it round the back. You might be able to use the strap or belt or a sock to hold on. So eventually, this is how it should look. It's one of the poses that gave yoga the name of tying yourself in knots, pretzels, okay? But remember, if you don't like that and it feels really weird and so very uncomfortable, just hold on through left elbow to left knee and reach this arm around the back. So you can do this modified version quite happily, looking round over your right shoulder behind you. Okay, breathing into it. Keep trying to get the rib cage away from the pelvis. Great tendency in these poses to collapse just the area that we're hoping will be spacious, and that those internal organs will get a nice, lovely rest. Okay. So same amount of time on this side. Well done, everybody. Firstly, I think our immune system must be at least 300 times improved because we're working so hard. That only seems fair. And then breathing out, coming round to the front and just moving into a position to do downward facing dog, because that's a nice counterpose to what we've just been doing. So again, if your wrists are sore, roll up your mat. And if you think, I can't be bothered, please be kind to your wrists. Please bother. Please look after them. Put the heels of the hand onto the squidged up bit and the fingers on the floor. And up you go into a nice, comfortable downward facing dog. Tuck the chin in. Elbow up and back. Push the pelvis away from your rib cage. Open out the shoulder blades. Breathing into the pose. You don't have to have your heels on the ground, don't worry about it. You can, if you like, bend your right knee. Okay, and then straighten it and bend your left knee. Okay, and straighten it. You can keep doing that little wiggle from side to side, just to encourage those very tight hamstrings to loosen up a bit, which technically they should do really during the day because they get warmer and they get a little bit more elastic as the day progresses. If it's the early morning, they're usually very tight. Okay, then eventually going back into comfortable downward facing dog. And again, the ankles are in line with your femur to socket hip joint. Okay, so they're not together and they're not wide, but they're as far apart really as your femur socket joints are far apart in your hip. So although this is a strong pose in itself, I think it feels a little bit easier than those planks we were doing. So in comparison, it's a bit of a rest pose, breathing into it. And if you like, you can raise one leg, but keep the pelvis parallel to the floor as you do that. And release down. And you remember, if you've seen my immune system booster, the first class, then we also did a little bit of twisting in here to really open out the lymphatic system. Okay, so you can do that too. Lift the leg up and twist a little. And then back into downward facing dog. If you've had enough, knees to floor, sit back, forehead to floor. But I'm just encouraging a few of you to just try and stay in the pose a bit. Okay, probably now is enough time. Bringing the knees down, widening them out, big toes touching. And down we go into that long rabbit or long swan pose. Walk the fingers away as much as possible. Let the shoulders come down wide towards the floor, wide shoulder blades. And breathing into the pose, letting that belly comfortably relaxed towards the floor. Resting. Resting bit is always very nice. And then if you were good and you were protecting your wrist, you'll have a squidgy bit where your hands are. I'd just like you to come up to kneeling in the table position. Do a bit of cat, breathe in, look up. Hammock shape, breathe out. Bridge, breathe in. Hammock, opening the lungs, breathe out, bridge. And then lower down and put the crown of the head onto the floor. Okay, clasp the hands behind you, familiar clasp, and lift the hands up. So it's a semi-inverted pose. It's like a headstand, but not so tricky. Okay, and if you wanted to, you could take the hands down to near the head and just go up. So it's like you're doing downward facing dog, but you're actually on the head, but only if you're well cushioned underneath the crown of the head. Okay, and I wouldn't stay there particularly long if you're not used to it. Then flatten the feet, forehead to floor, push and come up. Okay, clasp the hands behind you and swing from side to side. And relax the arms. Lovely. And I'm just going to teach you bastrika breathing, which is really, really helpful for the immune system. So I recommend you find something comfortable. So you're either sitting on a chair or you're sitting on blocks, but you're not sort of sitting and your knees are hurting or your hips are hurting. You're just dead comfy, but the spine is upright. So choose your position, and I'll come nearer so that I can actually see you better. Bring some light. It's the end of the summer here, and already the nights are drawing in. Okay. So how to perform bastrika. Bastrika means in Sanskrit is a bellows, and we're actually trying to get the lungs to really work. And obviously, I think it's obvious anyway, the better the lungs work, the more oxygen is going in, carbon dioxide is coming out, that more healthy the entire system will be, and it will really help our immune system. So we try to sit up tall when we're doing it. Okay, relax the shoulders down. Take a few deep breaths in and out. Okay, so what I want you to do, don't start doing it, I'll just explain it first, is I want you to start bellows breathing by exhaling forcefully through your nose, followed by inhaling forcefully. And we want to do that exhale and inhale in a second. So it's half a second out, half a second in. So it looks like this. Okay, so go for it. Nobody's listening to you. It's only my funny noise that everybody's listening to. Okay, and just keep doing that at a rate of 1 out, 1 in per second, per cycle. That takes a second. And make sure that the breath is really coming from low down. I don't want high chest breathing. So it might help you to actually put your hands on your diaphragm, and I want that to go breathe. Well, you could breathe in first. It might be easy for you to breathe in. As you breathe out, obviously the diaphragm is going to lift as the lungs collapse because they're pushing the air out. And as you breathe in, and the diaphragm's pushed down to give the lungs more room, and your belly comes out because all the small intestine, internal organs in there, they need more room. So it's going to be in, out, in, out. If you get lightheaded, have a rest and start again. Have a rest now anyway.
When you're beginning, I recommend doing 10 cycles. So that's 10 seconds worth. Pause, rest, do nothing for a bit, then do another 10 cycles, okay? So you allow a time where you 10 breaths, 10 cycles, breathe normally, let your mind have a bit of a rest, chill out, and then go back to doing another 10, okay? And as you build up over time, day to day, make it 15 seconds and then have a pause. And then you can go up to, I'd say, and have a 30-second break in between. And then go up to maybe do 20 breaths, okay? And then pause for 30 seconds again. And then do 30 breaths and pause for 30 seconds again and then release, okay, completely. So let's just try that again. Let's do 10. Always makes me cough. Pause for 30 seconds or 20 seconds. Okay, let's do another 10 seconds. And then pause. I think that's probably enough for today. Okay. You might feel a little bit lightheaded. That's normal, usually. Anything else I should say to you? Really listen to your body when you're doing the practice. This breathing is actually a very safe practice. But of course, if you feel lightheaded in any breathing, do stop at any time and just breathe naturally for a while. If you find the discomfort passes, you can do the round again. So why do we do this? It's the pranayama, the breath energy pranayama, is being forcefully in and out through the body, in and out, and it's used to actually energize the body. And doing bastrika also, you might have already experienced it, it clarifies the mind. Ding! And it's bringing a lot of, you know, breathe in, strong oxygen, breathe out, expelling the carbon dioxide. And if you're if you've got kind of woolly mind, or you're feeling a bit hazy or dopey, or if you're feeling you're kind of in slow motion and everything's very sluggish, bastrika, bellows breath, this breathing is really good for you. So I'll put notes in it for those who are on my message thread. It's also, interestingly, it's meant to be very good if you're trying to lose weight. Performing a few rounds actually throughout the day will actually increase your digestive power around here and boost your metabolism. So that's always good. All right. I think we've done well tonight. So for the relaxation this evening, if you have the ability to put your feet up onto a sofa so that your lower legs are resting on the sofa like so, and your thighs are perpendicular and your torso is comfortably resting flat on the floor, I would do that. If you haven't got that around you, I would, if you've got a wall, put your legs straight up the wall. So I just need to drain down those legs a little. So it's not just going into Shavasana for a bit, it's actually getting some drainage coming down through the legs, pooling around the hip area. Okay. That's it. So nice and comfortably. What shall I do? Because I haven't. Have I got a chair up here? No, I'm going to do legs up the wall. That would be nice. But I'm going to make myself comfy with it. So I'm actually going to put my hips on a cushion and do the deep restorative pose where the legs go up the wall, but your hips are also a little bit lifted up. Viparati Karani pose, deep restorative pose. So shoulder blades wide, shoulders sinking into the ground, chin tucked in, nothing to do. The nothing to do bits are wonderful.
And allow the breathing to quieten down comfortably. And if you find the mind wanders, you have two choices of a support to rest the wandering mind upon. And one is to be aware of the body and the way that it's being breathed. Where can you feel it breathing in and out? Belly or chest, throat, nose. And keep coming back to even more subtle awareness of these very subtle movements of the breath. Or you could listen to sounds inside and outside the room. Not seeking them, but just allowing the ears to be open and ready to hear. Resting on sound or resting on breath. Nothing to do and nowhere to go. Just being, chin slightly towards the chest. Nice open back of the neck. And as you're lying there, you might feel pulsing through the arms and the legs and the torso. That wonderful feeling of the body really rejuvenating itself. All that good work that we've done. And if you notice the mind going, enough, let's get on with my evening, or let's get on with my day. Meet that impatient and let's get on with things part of your mind with a bit of humor and a bit of friendliness, and reassure it that the world will not fall apart if we rest here for another minute. for most of us, another minute or 2 or 5 minutes or 10 minutes wouldn't be such a big deal, but it'd be so beneficial for our bodies, our minds, our emotions. And you now have choices as I begin to finish the session. You can stay exactly where you are and do this semi-inverted pose a little bit longer because it's so good for you. Or you can bend the knees, roll over and go into Shavasana and relax in Shavasana for a while. Or, which I recommend actually, that's what I'd like you to do most of all, because even though I'm going, you can stay in Shavasana. But if you've got to dash to get a train or have your tea or something like that, then of course do end the session. So thank you everybody. I hope you found that helpful. I hope your mind feels a certain clarity and your immune system is wonderfully boosted. That's what we were aiming for.